Welcome back to Automotive and another Chevelle episode. I don't know why I say that every episode, but you know what? I'm going to announce it because one day I'll have a different project. That's not today. Today, it's time to just start welding some shit together and seeing how this all goes. I guess not great, but who knows? Maybe I will be pleasantly surprised at how well it all goes together. Now the goal is, of course, to just pop out these clecos and weld the hole. That should pull the two parts together, hold them together, should be good. We'll probably go through with my clamps as well, clamp the metals to hold it together. I don't know if I will get to it in this episode, depends on how long the welding takes, but it would be nice to take out the support structure inside. I hate that thing. I want to get the rear deck in. Got to take that out to do that. Another thing that's going to be fun is getting these guys in there. It's going to be another part of this episode, and they go in here and sandwich between here. So it's going to be fun. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know if I'm going to cleco it together or clamp it together. I'm not overly concerned on getting those super dialed in yet. Mainly because in the future I want to do some modifications to this guy. So I think tire-wise, I'm going to go with the 345/30/20. Hopefully, my plans for this car change, so maybe the vision will change in time, but I'm not thinking so. However, overall size of that tire is 28 tall and 14 wide. My goal is to stick out. Now, I don't want to leave it just sticking out, so I'm going to have to figure out either I go Trans Am racing style with fender flares, or I go Rocket Bunny style with my own custom fiberglass quarters, front fenders. I don't know. It's a lot of work. I'm a long way from there. I'm just a dreamer who constantly thinks of crap and then wishes I had the money to do it. Which brings me to, don't forget to subscribe. Channel's growing okay. Definitely a tiny ass channel, but I'm getting there. I'm keeping work, and I'm going to constantly bring on more projects. Comment down below. I pretty much respond to every single comment, especially if it's a question or advice or anything like that, right? So feel free to comment, like the video, tell your friends. Let's grow this channel. I want to do, the 39. I want to get my buddy's Escalade in here. And then I want to buy an SC300 and make a drift car. And then, I want to buy a Vega and turn that into a race car. And I want to build cars. I don't know if I'll get to racing them, but I want to build cars for people to race, right? Or who knows, maybe I'll follow Rob Dahm and I'll take training classes and I'll learn how to race myself, because I've always loved cars, and who doesn't like going fast? I go fast, just not 200 miles per hour fast. Maybe one day. Now with that, start welding. Yeah. So let's start by popping these in here just to remove them again, because I don't know how many times I have installed these and taken them out. In fact, last weekend I just started welding them, so in a month you guys will see that process. But the part that frustrates me with these parts is they don't really line up with the quarter panels too well. Now, for the long process of welding, I learned a lot during this process because, well, not overly happy with the way I did it. Turned out fine, should be rigid, it's probably honestly stronger than it ever was from the factory. And again, I'm going to go through and put new, fresh strips of sheet metal in it to make the custom flush mount opening for the rear window. So I'll get to hide all of this anyways, and I got a lot of cleanup work, right? So it's going to be a while before I'm doing finishing work. This is all just tacking it together so it's a solid car. And what I did on this one that I don't like, which you have to fill the cleco holes. So, there's that has to be done. But I think in retrospective, when I'm going through and I'm drilling the new holes, because cleco holes didn't seem to be enough to hold it, at least I didn't feel like it was enough to hold it. I was drilling the holes all the way through both pieces of sheet metal, and it kind of made it a little more difficult to tack together, but I also feel like it didn't hold as well. So what I've been doing since then is I've been just drilling holes through one piece of sheet metal and tacking it to the other piece of sheet metal. This kind of gives you a back plate when you're welding to, and I feel like it has a better hold. Now, of course, as you've seen and will continue to see, I do grind down my welds. For one, something like this, they have to be flush to the metal anyways, and for two, my MIG welding is not pretty. Hopefully one day, right? I'm getting to where I do have a ton of hours into welding now, so eventually we'll get there. I did speed this up a considerable amount. I'm not going to be able to tell from this video, but I did spend hours working on this rear window, and it was a lot of moving clamps and that. And, the main reason I have those clamps on there is so that everything is held tight, right? I want to make sure that, because once you put that weld, if there's a gap in the metal, that gap's going to stay there. In fact, if you look closely right now, you can see a gap that has been bugging me this whole time. I'll have to fix that down the road. But here we go, drilling and all the way through. And then I have to fill that hole. And it doesn't seem to hold as much. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Is it proper to drill all the way through? Is it better to drill just through one side? Do you find a way to create a seam and you just weld one seam to the metal underneath it? I'm here to learn and, kind of teach from my own mistakes. I'm not a professional. This is, it's a hobby at the moment, and hopefully one day I'll be a professional, but that takes hours and dollars. I don't know which of those it takes more of, but it takes a lot. Yeah, it's just a lot of this. So drilling, moving clamps, welding. I didn't know how much you guys would want to see, but I didn't want to cut it too short to where it doesn't feel like you guys actually got to see the entire process, because it is a long process, right? Thank goodness for the clecos, because they really did line everything up, hold everything in place. And the other nice thing too is you put the clecos in, if you take them out, you have those holes lined up now, so you can always put it right back to where it was. So you could literally cleco the entire car, take it all the way apart, and then come back to it, and it'll all line right back up. It'll all line back up. Alright, you just put the clecos back in the holes, line up both holes, and you're good to go. So grinding wasn't too bad. The flappy disc again. I've been kind of testing out other ways of grinding down the welds, but the flappy disc seems to do the trick the best. I'm a little concerned that if I'm not paying attention, I might take away too much of the good metal rather than just cleaning the weld down. Because my whole goal as I'm going through doing this is just to get a nice flush surface. Have a nice clean appearance, at least, as clean as I'm capable of now. Don't be afraid to get out there and try it, right? Your first welds might not be that great, but 100 hours in, I guarantee you're going to have good welds. It's just practicing and learning. And, you guys have been extremely helpful too, giving feedback. I've got a couple good friends who are also pretty good about giving feedback and motivating to keep going. So now the front was done a little bit differently, and I'm a little concerned that it wasn't done perfectly flush. I'm very happy with the welds, so I'll say that. I'm very happy with how it's all connected. I am a little concerned that maybe the roof is sitting a little too high in the front. It was very hard to line up, and the underneath part was just so rusted that I really didn't have a nice straight line to tack to. So I did have to do extra cleanup work afterwards. But this welding was much nicer, right? It's not filling holes. I got a line to follow, I drop a dot, a bead, let it cool down. As soon as the glowing stops, I hit it again, wait for the glowing to stop, hit it again. And you just, repeat that process for 1,000 times or so. Oh, it's a lot. It was a lot. But I feel really good about how it came together, how it's connected. I'm not entirely sure how to do this when I go to do the flush mount. So watching Salvage to Savage, I'm pretty sure they didn't adjust that top line. They just pushed the windshield up to it so that you didn't have to do that. They just brought the sides in. So maybe I'll do something like that, right? And then you just put the little brackets on the bottom of the windshield to hold it in place. So that is definitely a possibility. I also had the kids out earning some money doing yard work, so they were in and out, complaining about the smell of welding. Yeah, it's not the greatest. Tacking to old rusty welds. Another thing I didn't realize before doing this that maybe I should have is that welding to old crappy material is not great, and I think I'm probably running too thick of a wire, which of course is creating too much heat, which then makes it real easy for that old material to just disappear. Thankfully I haven't done anything I couldn't fix or revert, but it's definitely a fear as I'm going through, and it's definitely one of those oh crap moments when you're welding and your material starts to disappear. This front windshield was probably the most I've had to grind of any single part, just because I had to flush up the two pieces of material on the bottom to the best of my ability, and then I had to, I had that whole seam welded, that entire distance, so I had to get that as flush as possible too. When I go to flush mount, there's going to be however thick I need piece of sheet metal across that whole surface to lift the windshield up. So that is going to have to be, I'm sure, modified to some extent before I can do that, just to make sure everything sits nice and flush and the car looks good in the end, right? Most of this is going to be going off of looks. It's not going to be perfect, and honestly my main goal is that when someone looks at the car, it just looks good. They get out, their calipers, they're going to find things are not going to be mirrored or squared or anything like that. But I don't know that it has to be. At least not yet. We'll see how nitpicky I get as I get more experience and I do more projects. I didn't quite get far enough to pull out my inner framing structure, hold together bed frame parts. They're still there. But I did get quite a bit done welding wise, and I changed routes, which is why it's still in there. So I've got all of this done. It not finished done, but welded together done, at least for the moment. When I got to these portions, I realized that I can't start welding all of this together till I'm ready to do these. And I could switch up and start working on that. I know what I need to do that. However, that doesn't help me take out the inner supports, and I want those out. What does help me is doing the front. So I switched speeds and I did the front. Again, not finish work, but far better than it's ever been. I don't know if you remember when I was cutting it out, but that was it was rusted all to hell. I got to clean it up a lot more, and once again, I'm going to be going through flush mounting, so I've got to build that up anyway. So more sheet metal will come in. It just won't be formed sheet metal, it'll be me figuring out sheet metal. So that's going to be a whole different challenge when I get there. I just found out that SS396 kind of lost my order in a sense that they switched ordering systems, didn't realize they didn't ship this to me, so they had to cancel it, refund me. I've got to order it back again. Haven't done that yet because I got to order the floor pans with it. That's going to be my next step. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so I've got days off. So I'm going to put some time into this, which is going to be figuring out what all I need to order. Basically, I just need to verify whether I need to order this spot or not. It's $100 I could save if I don't need it. But if I do need it, it's not going to be the end of the world. My next step welding-wise is going to be figuring out this. You probably can't tell that well on the video, but there's a gap. You put it together and it kind of forms correctly, kind of not. You can see I kind of dented it, pulling it in there properly. But when this goes down, then this sits down where it should be as well. Yeah, so the next video is going to be getting both sides attached here, cutting this, welding this down to the support. This is going to need filler anyways, but currently this sits high. I don't know if the roof was supposed to go on top of the quarter or not. I might have messed up. I might have not. I don't know. But I'm going to cut them anyways so that this and this sit flush together. And then I'm going to weld that to the inner structure so it's all one. Because before, when I took them off, they were spot welded to the inner structure. So they were attached to it, and I believe they're supposed to be. Either way, I'm going to do it, and then when I go to making this thing pretty is when I'm going to have to, make up all the extra work then, which is fine, right? So this guy's now tacked in. This is welded in all correctly. Next step is going to be doing these. The front is done. As soon as these are done, all of this comes out, which means the rear deck will be ready. So then once this is out, I need to decide rear deck or rear. Once those are both done, then I need to have my floor pans because that'll be the next step. And then it'll be on to wiring and then deciding if I'm going to get the motor first or the AC first or do the brakes or do the 2 inches drop. I don't know. It's a big ass project, but I'm getting there. With that, don't forget to subscribe. Like the video, comment down below on if I did the roof right or wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter now, it's done. I'm gonna do whatever. It just means it may potentially be more work for me down the road. But channel's slowly growing. I'm really happy with how it's doing. I hope you guys are enjoying the project. I look forward to bringing you guys more projects, right? I'm kind of, I don't want to say rushing, but I'm going through the Chevelle as fast as I am capable while learning everything because I really want to get to the 39. But I will not start the 39 until the Chevelle is on the road. So there's a good chance that the Escalade is going to be in here getting cut up long before I start on the 39. But I'm not going anywhere. Got projects. Eventually, I want to learn how to drift, and who knows, maybe learn how to do other forms of racing. The Chevelle will probably do drag and drives. I've never done any legal drag racing, so that'll be a first. Yeah, all of that to say, subscribe. Help me grow this channel. Let's do cool things together. With that, thanks for following along.